serving in that role, please let us know. And we will have a meeting next week of the committee, and I'm filling in for now. I did want to announce that you should please save the date on Saturday, April 5th. It will be the 4th annual Arlington Fair Housing Conference, sponsored by the Arlington NAACP branch, along with the Equal Rights Center and Home of Virginia. So we're super excited for that. More details will be released hopefully in the coming weeks as we nail down the speakers and venues and everything. But we're very excited for another annual Fair Housing Conference and looking forward to having people attend. Thank you.
Thank you for that this evening. I was hoping to hear from our political action chair, but she has not signed on as of yet this evening. So I'm going to ask at this point that our education chair, Tia Alford, who's also our second vice president, if you'll share.
Good evening, everyone. I just wanted to share that we do have issues going on with our school system, but nothing that our branch is involved in with regard to a transgender policy and restroom use. And also, we do have a major issue going on with some of our Black teachers having major issue with how they're being treated, and we are looking into that. But that's all to report at this time.
Thank you for that and for your work in the area of education. And we do encourage anyone that has concerns in that area as well to share your concerns with our branch. We are more than willing to look into concerns and to help where we are able to. We are monitoring closely what's happening with the Department of Education as well with our students here in Arlington. I'm grateful that Detta Kissel is here on the line, and she's going to share with us about political action at this time.
So Jean-Marie is also, Jean-Marie was the prior chair, and she is okay. So yeah, Jean-Marie is holding over and keeping the chair warm until we get a new chair for political action. But we did have a meeting on Wednesday, or on Monday, I guess it was, and we had a wide-ranging discussion about what we were going to be able to do this year. We will continue to have a robust voter education and registration program, but it may have to look different if, because we do a lot of door-to-door in affordable housing, and that might not be, we might not be invited to do that this year because of what ICE is doing in terms of knocking on doors. We had our first event of the year at the Feel the Heritage Festival on Saturday, and that was great. And thank you to those on this call for helping out. A lot of the people who volunteered are here today. That's it.
Thank you to our Political Action Committee for your continued work there. Now we'll call for our January 2025 financial report.
Adriana, I still could not pull it up. So are you able to put the link in the chat for me?
I am sorry, I'm having some technical difficulties, Madam President. Can I have a few more minutes?
Yes, you can. Again, we thank everyone for being here tonight, especially as we celebrate Black History Month. And tonight we are focusing on local Black history here in Arlington, the communities that have been traditionally African American. And so I'm grateful that our housing chair, interim person for housing chair is going to lead and facilitate for us this evening. So at this point, I will turn it over to Kellen.
Thank you, Pastor Davis. So we have two guest speakers tonight. Very excited to hear from Portia Clark as well as Wilma Jones. Portia Clark is a lifelong Arlingtonian and active community member in her home neighborhood of Green Valley. And she's also the founder of C.A.R.E, which stands for Community Association of Resources for Education, Enrichment and Economics. And she'll be speaking first tonight. Then we have Wilma Jones, who is an author and civic activist who grew up in and still resides in Halls Hill. And she has written 3 books, and the, I guess, most recent one is My Halls Hill Family, More Than a Neighborhood. So very excited to have Portia talk about Green Valley, one of our historically Black neighborhoods, as well as Wilma Jones talking about Halls Hill and Queen City. And so after they both speak, we're going to open it up for some Q&A, and I'll add a reminder afterwards. But if you do have a question for them, please just put it in the chat, and I will read questions for folks. But with that, I can turn it over to you, Portia, to kick us off. Thank you.
Okay, thank you all. Thanks for having me. I guess if I could sing, I would sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. But instead, I'm going to focus on our hope in the future and where we go from here, and tell you about my community, my neighborhood, Green Valley. I do see a lot of you are familiar with our neighborhood, but I hope telling my story and my side of this, you'll learn something that you didn't know already. But the road may be stormy today, but trouble don't last always. If I look at Green Valley, a community that was established by 2 freed slaves, Sarah and Levi Jones, after acquiring 14 acres of land in the year of 1844 for a total of $435, that was a major accomplishment in getting this neighborhood up and running and established and then selling land. Freedmen's Village, which had also been developing on parcels sold to freed African Americans following the end of the Civil War. Note that our community came before the government established Freedmen's Village in 1863. Green Valley grew when Freedmen's Village was closed in 1892. Then again, when East Arlington, Queen City, was taken over in 1941 by the building of the Pentagon. I'm sorry, I forgot, Pastor Davis. You can go to the next slide. That's Freedmen's Village and just a picture of it. And the next one actually shows East Arlington on a map with, well, it actually talks about when our African-American neighborhoods were started. And then the next one, go ahead. Okay, this one shows where East Arlington was at in relation to when the Pentagon got started. So by the building of the Pentagon, it eliminated that neighborhood of East Arlington, and many more of those residents relocated to Green Valley. Our communities were known for people who were tightly bound by social ties and dependent on each other. They cared for each other's children, cut each other's hair, sold each other groceries, ice, and milk. It was security and acceptance that other communities can never understand. We bought the land, established the businesses, and were employed in the community when others would not hire us. For recreation, we entertained ourselves at the colored-only Green Valley Ballpark, Peyton's Field, which the county bought and made a park and named it Jenadine. We played baseball, bid whist, and picnicked after church on Sundays. Our churches were baptized in the 4 Mile Run Creek. I think I missed you on a couple more slides. You can go forward. This shows the trailer park that happened after East Arlington was eliminated. The next one. And this shows where Green Valley Ball Field and Peyton Field was located off of 4 Mile Run Creek, along with people being baptized in the water. That's not Jenadine, I understand, but it is people baptizing. And then it shows the new Jenadine Park. Okay, here, our churches were baptized in the creek, and the church leaders were leaders in the Green Valley community. They helped create and participated in social organizations and helped the community with religious, social, political, and economic matters. The Jenadine Club formed in 1931 to provide recreational facilities for African Americans. Ms. West formed the In-Betweeners Club for youth recreation that met at the Dunbar Home Center. The Good Neighbor Club was formed in 1943 by Desi Bullock. You can go back from that one. The club helped those in need, and they sent flowers to the sick, and they helped families when individuals passed away. The role of the YMCA was to provide facilities for African American communities. Programs included educating men that had not completed a formal education. Veterans Memorial YMCA, completed in 1953, had the wise men who were pictured here. For ladies, they also had some social and etiquette clubs. They had a swimming pool and a space for social and recreational activities. The pool is now owned by Macedonia Baptist Church and sits in disrepair, but it has a lot of history of our community. For entertainment outside of church and places like the YMCA, Green Valley had the Sugar Bowl, the Pool Hall, and Pete's Place, a place to hang out and have fun before Go-Go George, one of our Green Valley greats, started creating entertainment for young people. This past Valentine's Day, I reminded my husband of our first date back in 1978 at Pete's Place. Even though we both at one time lived on Pollard Street, it was that night that we got connected at 2325 Shirlington Road. You can go to the next picture showing that. It was a nightclub in a basement, or back in the times they called them juke joints. I had just seen the property listed a couple of weeks ago for sale with an asking price of over $1.2 million, now a norm for houses in the Green Valley community. Then Done Movin' was a restaurant that one resident described as a place where, on weekends, all of the doctors, lawyers, and Indian chiefs out of the district would come there for dinner after church. The Green Valley Pharmacy had a food counter that served the community and later became a place where women like my mother operated and served breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Across from the pharmacy was Shady Dale Restaurant, and up from there was BT's Carryout. We now have Aaron's Carryout, run by his grandson, located across from the Chin Baker Funeral Home, still a family-operated business in Green Valley. You can go to the next slide. In the 1960s, Green Valley was 99% African American. By the 1980s, we were 88% African American. And in the last census data, we're now reported to be 17.9% African American. Surprising enough, Johnson Hill is the one African American community that has a percentage of African Americans that's more than 40%. The Green Valley community was a thriving area where the people helped each other and provided what was needed to grow and develop. You can go to the next one. Businesses were established to meet needs, like the Friendly Cab Stand opened in 1947 to take parents to Freedman's Hospital in DC to have babies. The Collins family, reflected here, also opened a friendly restaurant and a hair salon. Miss Mamie Bell Mackley Brown operated the Friendly Beauty School and taught women how to do hair. Her husband was Reverend Mackley at Mount Olive. Black communities created during the Jim Crow era did not always fall into binary categories of elite or poor. Instead, neighborhoods like Green Valley hosted people of multiple classes. According to Mariah James, who wrote a paper in her thesis on Among the Elite, uncovering class in Green Valley. Then there were the barbershops like Star Barbershop, owned by my uncle, Galvester Crawley, Teddy's, and now we have Wayne Cuts. Those were places where the men networked and shared their knowledge. For the women in the beauty shop, they would call it gossiping, but the men in the barbershop got to know each other and offered their help or a friend when needed at home. There were construction and building persons like Robert Reed, Eddie Lockett, Thomas West, and the Bryant brothers and George Eliot. They worked hard and developed their skills as bricklayers, architects, engineers, and other construction trades. They built homes that they and many others lived in for more than 30 years. Now they're being torn down and redeveloped. There were lawyers. You can go ahead to the next one. This reflects the businesses in Green Valley. This poster done by Nancy Perry, who did a lot of the research and the history on. There were approximately about 45 businesses that operated in Green Valley at one time. Today, I look at the businesses as well as the land, and we only have 3 original landowners in that Green Valley area of the town square. The lawyers, go ahead to the next one. Well, this was showing the Lockett House and the Carter House, both proposed by developers to be torn down and redeveloped. The next one. And these are the lawyers that everyone went to that included Luttrell Parker, Robert Alexandra, and Thomas Monroe, who became the first Black judge in Arlington. He and his family continued to live in Arlington, with his wife, Eleanor Monroe, becoming a member of the Arlington County School Board. Their son, Charles Monroe, was elected to the Arlington County Board. My second daughter used to ride to school with his son when they attended Page Elementary School. The lawyers were very engaged, leading in the PTA, working with the NAACP, and helping to fight for civil rights. Next one. There were doctors that took care of our health. Dr. Bruner, a pioneer who was hired by Arlington County's Department of Health prenatal clinics at a time of bigotry, racism, and segregation. He helped to establish Planned Parenthood in Arlington. He delivered babies at home, like Dr. Alfred O. Taylor Jr. Dr. Moore, the dentist, and Dr. Butler, who once told my mother after examining her on a Friday that he was going to have her admitted to the hospital by Monday because she thought she had a tumor, and he told her she was pregnant with my brother. After 27 years having her first child, I was tumor number 2. Dr. Butler began the process to have her admitted to Freedman's Hospital, and she did indeed make it there by Monday to have my brother. He also was a plumber. He had a second trade. He convinced a good friend to open an HVAC business on Shirlington Road. His wife, Miss Payne, relayed a story to me one day and shared how he was at one lady's house working in her yard on her plumbing with Mr. Payne one night. And then the next day, she went to the hospital to deliver her baby. When she looked up in the labor room, when her delivery doctor arrived, she looked at him and asked, "Weren't you at my house last night working on my plumbing?" Well, it was him. He was a plumber and a doctor. Dr. Bruner's daughter, Dr. Denise Bruner, is a practicing physician in North Arlington today. She once practiced in her father's office on Glebe Road. She specializes in bariatrics and anti-aging. Now, we don't have a doctor's office in Green Valley. Mr. Richard Walker repaired our shoes. Mr. Wilson cleaned our clothes. Dr. Leonard Muse, a Green Valley great, established the Green Valley Pharmacy to fill our prescriptions and was known to help with housing and food insecurities. George Moore opened Naomi's and would sell and present us with the latest music. Our neighborhood elementary school, which is shown here, started out as Kemper, relocating from Lomax when they relocated from Freedman's Village. Later became Drew in 1952. The old Drew shown at the top. I attended Drew for elementary school, living in Fort Henry Gardens, and I could just run down the street to school. Most memorable was stopping to shop at the old James Delicatessen property that then became Creepy Store right next door to Drew. I started kindergarten in Ms. B. Richardson's class, and her husband George was one of the principals at Hoffman Boston when it was an all-Black school that Green Valley students attended until 1965. Drew remained an all-Black school well beyond Brown versus Board of Education that ordered racial segregation in public schools was unconditional. Drew continued to operate as a segregated school until 1971. Montessori came in as a model program to integrate our school and stayed for over 30 years before we ended busing and became a neighborhood school that is now integrated by those who now live in Green Valley. Our teachers were engaged in the community and knew our parents. My mother would talk about Miss Hightower, and I remember her daughter teaching at Drew, and her son was in my class. Miss Marie G was one of my second grade teachers. Mr. Hardy Williams and Mr. Lee were the teachers with the belts. And my favorite teacher, Miss Hazeline Harris, still teaching when my kids went to school, where they learned from her famous song, "Did You Feed My Cow?" I was in her class for third and fourth grade, the year Dr. Martin Luther King was assassinated. We all cried together in 1968. It was then that I became an activist. We marched to make his birthday a holiday and rejoiced when Stevie Wonder did the birthday song. My oldest daughter attended Drew for pre-K, Montessori. For kindergarten, she was not accepted. She was then assigned to attend Claremont. Claremont closed the next year. She ended up at Barcroft. I became a PTA president. The children from Green Valley were stated to go to another school in North Arlington after third grade. So when she reached third grade, they were supposed to enter a North Arlington school. And that's when a group of parents from Barcroft and the community, we got together and lobbied the board, and the board gave us a decision that they could remain at Barcroft Elementary School through sixth grade. She had already attended 3 elementary schools. So it was nice to have them not have to leave South Arlington to attend Jamestown, Nottingham, or Tuckahoe, which is where most of our neighborhood kids were sent. Another Green Valley great was John Robinson, who became an activist. He encouraged us all to vote and take care of our kids. He provided food, clothes, furniture, mattresses, and activities like summer in the parks, trips to Budds Creek, Florida, and the circus. He marched with King and others, later forming the Dr. Martin Luther King Teen Community Center. He fought the battles with educating us, helping with equal rights, and joined our churches to fight segregation. Our churches once worked together to get our schools integrated and help to get rid of drugs. In 1992, members formed the Crackdown on Drugs with Joan Cooper, another Green Valley great. This group brought the President of the United States to the Valley. George H.W. Bush visited us. I think that's on the next slide. This was the Crackdown on Drugs group along with Joan Cooper meeting President Bush. Finally, housing has changed. I lived on all streets, all sides of Drew, in Fort Henry Gardens growing up, and later lived in the Sheldon Apartments. We were one of the first families to move into the old Sheldon Apartments, which have now been acquired by AEC and renovated and renamed the Sheldon. Paul Laurence Dunbar Mutual Homes were built as the first co-ops in the United States, and they were built to house African-American veterans from World War II who needed housing. The property is now the Shirlington Crest. As former president of the Green Valley Civic Association, I've worked with these developments and others, most recently the Hotel Pentagon redevelopment at 24th and Glebe Road, proposing to house over 500 residents. These shows Dunbar Homes and what used to be the Sheldon and the new Sheldon, along with the Shirlington Crest homes. You can go ahead to the next one. Here, I just wanted to give a tribute. You can play the music for a moment. Most of us have heard that Roberta Flack passed away, but she has a history tied to Green Valley.
Strumming my pain with his fingers, singing my life with his words, killing me softly with his
That's enough. This is one of my favorites from Roberta Flack. What Roberta Flack grew up around, well, she was born in North Carolina, but her family lived in Arlington, and she still has family around the area today. I ended up owning one of the houses that her family lived in. Her mother was a member of Lomax AME. Her mother played the organ and the piano, was a musician, and she also taught Dr. Taylor's son music and was involved in the DC schools at that time. Roberta Flack was 88, passed away, and we will miss her, but she was another great from Green Valley. I will say in my closing here, if you want to know more about me or Green Valley, Dr. Alfred O. Taylor, who I believe is on the line, his book, The Bridge Builders. Nearly all of those that I have named and talked about in this presentation are featured in The Bridge Builders of Knock. Knock is what we were called until the name was changed back to Green Valley, which was what we had always known it as. But the book written and compiled by Dr. Alfred O. Taylor, our community historian, will share many of the stories of those bridge builders and how they helped Green Valley to develop over the years. Many have overcome some difficult and challenges. These are all of the bridge builders that Dr. Taylor wrote about in his book. But to get to where we are today, we no longer live in the past, but there's always a hope in our future. Green Valley will continue to march on. We are now more diverse, but home, nonetheless, a thriving and a safe community where we are no longer the last affordable community to live in. Our kids continue to leave, but they return for visits at events like Field of Heritage held on Saturday and Green Valley Day held the third Saturday in September. DEI may be threatened, but all we have to do is remember to continue thriving, walk by faith, and know that we can and will still rise. We have come this far by faith, and we won't turn back. Thank you all. I'm open to any questions I think that they'll ask in the chat.
Thank you so much, Portia.
There is some contact information, I think, on the next slide, if anybody wanted that.
Oh, great.
The last one. It's the next one. Yeah. Okay.
So Portia, I think we're going to hold questions until after Wilma speaks as well, and then we'll do questions for both of you. But thank you so much for that presentation. I learned a lot from it. And Green Valley is my neighbor. I live in Arlington, so excited to learn more about basically what's right across the street.
Okay.
Okay, so next we have Wilma, who is going to talk about Halls Hill as well as Queen City.
Hi, yeah, I'm actually going to talk about the overall Black community that started after Green Valley,
That works.
and more from a kind of high level from the perspective of the relationship in Arlington County. So have I been given I need to be able added as a host so I can share? Thank you. Okay, let's put on screen share. Oh, shoot. I hate this. Sorry. I got to stop my share for just a second. Okay. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So this is a picture of the marker for Halls Hill Wall, the segregation wall, as we commonly call it. And so I'm telling this from the perspective of how the communities were developed and what led to some of their demise. And then when we get to the Halls Hill part, I'll do a little bit of what Portia did in terms of telling you about the background and the info in the community. Just as a FYI, if you want to know more about Halls Hill, you can go to my website, hallshill.com, and there's a load of information there. So it's just going to be high level to fit into like the 20-minute time frame. So first, I'm going to introduce you to Arlington's Black population. And this is a picture of Freedman's Village, another view of what Portia showed you earlier. So slave ships, everybody knows that the first slave ships came to Virginia. So Point Comfort, a coastal port in the English colony of Virginia, then of course, we know that the first African American community in Arlington, 1844, as Portia told us, Green Valley, which I think is amazing that it started even before the Civil War, and that these people had um, the goodwill and just the nature to want to build community, because they bought all of this land and then began to sell it to other freed blacks. Then in 1863, Freedmen's Village started. And Freedmen's Village was what was called a contraband camp. That's what they called camps for the formerly enslaved. It got started because the contraband camps within the Washington, D.C. specific, across the Potomac, were overcrowded. And so it was also kind of a slap in the face to Lee's family, because the largest plantation in Arlington prior to the Civil War was Arlington House. And actually, very interestingly, the second largest plantation was actually called Green Valley, that was down on the other side of Green Valley. So it was a camp that opened, had over 1,100 acres of land, housed the formerly enslaved, taught them trade, taught them how to read. And the part of the reason that the Black people felt like they would be able to stay there was because although they couldn't buy the land, they actually bought the frame homes that were built on the land that they leased. So it was a thriving community that was actually featured in Harper's Bazaar magazine, that it was such it was basically like a model development. Then at the end of the Civil War, Hall's Hill got started. It was named after the white plantation owner, Basil Hall, who had bought the land in 1850. It basically developed into more of a working class Black community, initially had lots of farms and the like. The former slaves who worked at a dairy that is actually where Virginia Hospital Center stands now, were part of the organizations that, part of the people that created a lot of the organizations that were foundational to Hall's Hill, especially Callaway United Methodist Church. So the village begins to get a lot of pressure during the Reconstruction period. And part of the reason for that is because there were a lot of Black men specifically in Freedmen's Village who were running for office and winning. And they were starting to rule things. And white developers did not like that. And they basically, along with other major cities where Black people during Reconstruction were starting to, like in Tulsa, where they had, Black Wall Street, they had Black Wall Streets in a number of other cities. The Black people were getting, basically, they were saying they have too many rights. We got to stop this. They closed the Freedmen's Bureau after greatly reducing the powers. And then the Freedmen's Village was then eventually closed. Now, during the period when it was under a lot of pressure, other neighborhoods opened because people saw, the writing on the wall. So Portia talked about East Arlington. Queen City was a part of, Queen City and East Arlington were like right together. East Arlington was really interesting in that they had what, like Hall's Hill, East Arlington had its own Black volunteer fire department called the East Arlington Fire Department. They were very vocal. And during the period when the eminent domain happened, the county basically told the East Arlington firefighters, you're done. We're not even going to move you to other fire stations. We're just closing your fire department. So East Arlington and Queen City were directly a result. What happened to them was a direct result of institutional racism. And I actually have information on my blog where I went through and did some research and found some newspaper reports where some of the engineers who worked for the contractors who were contracted to do that Clover Link intersection, which is where like the big part of where Queen City was, basically said that they were told to get rid of the N-word shacks. So they didn't care about the fact that they were people's homes. And also they didn't get very much time, which is why there were the trailers and things set up in the other Black neighborhoods. So Johnson's Hill began in 1880 when a neighbor, a white farmer, John J.R. Johnston, subdivided his farm and sold 10-acre lots to the African Americans leaving Freedman's Village. And Johnson's Hill, again, was also on the pike very near Freedman's Village, so it was right up the road. And then, interestingly, what is now called Penrose was originally called Butler Homes. And Mr. Henry Lewis Holmes is, he was he was on the board, I believe, the Arlington County Supervisors. He was extremely well respected. He helped found, I believe it was St. John's Baptist Church that's near the Penrose neighborhood. He was one of those people who encouraged Black people to, to strive and to build. And the part of the thing that made the Butler Homes neighborhood very unique was that those Black people built their homes made of brick. So a lot of homes in Halls Hill and Johnson's Hill and Green Valley were frame homes. There were a number of brick too, but Butler Homes was known that most of their homes were brick homes. And their goal, again, was to develop a community of freestanding homes with a more middle class environment, not so much the farmer garden kind of environment. So this is where Black Arlingtonians lived around 1900. And as you see, I've got the information there that this is an original map by Nancy Perry and Lindsay, and I always pronounce her name incorrectly, so I'm not going to pronounce it, but both of them received their doctorates in history, and they focused on our Black Arlington as a part of their PhDs, and they both have websites as well. So the neighborhoods, what they considered and classified neighborhoods, included churches, schools, businesses, and social organizations. These included Green Valley, Halls Hill, Johnson's Hill, Roslyn, Queen City, East Arlington, and Hatfield. The enclaves are where smaller groups of Black residents lived in areas, and they were surrounded by white residents. They lacked the institutions like churches or schools, and they were called Pelhamtown, Cherrydale, Ballston, South Washington, and Browns Bend. Pelhamtown was near where Marymount University years, it was owned, most of it, by the Pelhams, and their neighborhood was very unique in that, unlike a lot of the other people who were early purchasers in these Black neighborhoods who then sold off lots to other Black people, the Pelhams pretty much kept their land, but they built homes that they rented to other people, which became a bit of a problem when the white people started doing things to try to force them to leave, because the people who rented really didn't have a whole lot invested. So they left kind of quickly. And then the other enclaves were kind of, once segregation became legal, those people knew that they had to get out of there because, again, they were surrounded by white people. But in Halls Hill and Hatfield, in Green Valley, and to some extent in Roslyn. But Roslyn got moved out because of, not only because of racism, but also because of the issues about how they felt that the businesses that were there, which were a lot of bars and things, were unseemly. But part of the reason that those neighborhoods were so strong was because of the high level of home ownership of the people who lived there, which I'm going to talk about in a few minutes. So let's talk about Halls Hill a little bit. So this is the Langston Brown Community Center, a portion of the mural that shows one of the older versions of Fire Station 8 looked like. I believe there were, like, now that we're into this building, this is like the 5th or 6th building of Fire Station 8 since the original kind of garage was built on the property that was donated by the Hicks family. So foundational organizations on Halls Hill were Callaway, Mount Salvation, which was pretty much started by the Pelhams from Pelhamtown, the Halls Hill Volunteer Fire Station, now known as Fire Station 8, which got started in 1918. We recognized their anniversary or the opening a few years ago. Then Langston School, which opened in 1925, which was a Rosenwald school, a school that was started as it was found partially financed by the Rosenwald Foundation, which was started by one of the part owners of Sears Roebuck, Julius Rosenwald, along with Booker T. Washington, and they built over 5,000 schools and helped to finance them in the formerly Southern states. And then the Langston Citizens Association. And let's go to the next one. So this is a picture of Callaway, and I'm showing the picture from this perspective so you can also see our historically designated cemetery. Mount Salvation's has been historically designated as well. And I think you got a couple of people who are waiting to get in. Then this is a picture of what Mount Salvation looked like. This is what it looked like when I was a kid. It was torn down in 1974, I believe, and now this is what the Mount Salvation looks like today. It's on Culpeper Street. Then this is what Langston looked like in its original form when it opened in 1925, facing Lee Highway, and you can see this land over here is where the Black doctor, Dr. Morton, lived, who I'm going to talk about in just a minute. And this is what Langston looks like today. And this is what Fire Station 8 looked like for many, many, many years. Again, one of the many iterations, and this is what it looks like today. I just want to take a second. We had a Black History Month presentation at Callaway where we talked about Black businesses, but I just want to kind of shout out, I mentioned the Hicks store. The Hicks had a store, they had a sweet shop, they had a cab company, and they had the first Black bus line that ran from Falls Church to downtown DC. There's Mr. Moore's Barbershop, which is still on Langston Boulevard. There was Mrs. Allen's store. There was the Suburbanite restaurant and club. Then it was taken over, well, not taken over, but it became Goolsby's. We had a number of other barbershops, Mr. King's Barbershop. Mr. Taylor had a sweet shop. We had Mrs. Adele's Beauty Shop. We had a dentist, Dr. John Ellison, whose brother, Oscar, had a medical practice in Black part at Falls Church. Our Black doctor back in the day was Dr. Edward T. Morton, whose home was where the McDonald's is now, and he ran for the county board unsuccessfully in 1930. There's Robinson's Upholstery that started by Mr. Jacob Robinson on Lee Highway, now Langston Boulevard, and that is now actually in the west end of Arlington. We had lots of tradesmen, Mr. Montrose Jackson and people like that. And then I know a lot of people know the story about desegregation. So we're talking about neighborhoods, so I wasn't going to go into that, but do want to mention that the 4 children who integrated schools in the state of Virginia all went to Langston. 2 of them attended Callaway with their families. 2 of them attended Mount Salvation, and they desegregated Stratford in, let's see, 66 years ago on February 2nd, and which is now, again, called Dorothyham Middle School. So we got a lot of history up in Halls Hill. So this is our welcoming area that was put up in the early 2000s. Ms. Winnie Owens Hart did our design. She's a original member of Halls Hill. And then to talk about the next piece. So the village closes, Arlington grows, and developers gain political power. So the developers gaining political power is why our community is kind of designed and constructed the way that it is from a housing perspective. So the village closes December 7th, 1887. They got eviction notices. Many people got money, but they only got a third of the amount that they were asking for. And this is the Freedmen's Village, Green Heights information about how they're going to change it and close it. So The Civil War gave birth to much of the modern federal government. After the war, all kinds of buildings, and of course, we all know the things that were built around here in the 40s and 50s, and Arlington blossomed. So Alexandria and Arlington County split in 1870. The Good Citizens League, and if you ever have any wondering about things about racism in Arlington, just Google Good Citizens League, Arlington County, Virginia, and you'll see how they became a political force, and they are the reason. And Crandall Mackey is one of the, he was a Commonwealth attorney. The previous Commonwealth attorney to Parissa wasn't happy that I put out there about he was blatantly racist and did lots of things to suppress the votes of Blacks and poor residents. They actually were able to make that legal until these kinds of things were overturned by the Supreme Court. And Black residents were targeted. And as a result, a lot of Black people moved out of Arlington. Now, the county changed because of these people coming here to live. So farmland declined from 15,000 acres to 8,100 acres in less than 10 years. So, but the Black residents in those three neighborhoods were hard to move out because of their home ownership level. I can tell you, I was going through some things with the Citizens Association history, and in the 1940s, the county board tried to move the residents of Halls Hill to Green Valley by changing zoning. And the Citizens Association and the residents and people fought it, and they were able to overcome it. But those were the kinds of things that those developers who were political leaders made the rules to benefit themselves and other white landowners. Sounds kind of common right now. So let me see if I can find my thing. So institutional racism led to the segregation walls. So Alexandria was a little upset with Arlington, and after the split, they went to court to regain a portion of the land, and they won in 1929 and regained 3,000 acres of land. So the Arlington developers were stunned. So Black residents comprised 12% of the county population at that time. So members of the Black communities began to construct row houses or connected homes. But the county made it difficult. They wouldn't offer water or sewer to the Black neighborhoods. As a matter of fact, in the Halls Hill neighborhood, my grandmother and them fought for getting sewer and water brought to the house. And it was literally 8 years after the new neighborhoods down near the hospital, Waycroft Woodlawn, were given the ability to have water and sewer at their homes. So new schools were finally built to support the overcrowding, and then 2 new churches were built in the Black communities. But legalized segregation from 1912 to 1917. The federal government and the Calvin Coolidge administration is lobbied by these southern states, and he gives them the ability to regulate zoning. So they passed these zoning ordinances in 1927 and 1930, and that allowed these white developers and the people who were building these neighborhoods to apply pressure on the Black enclaves, so that they were eventually, those Black people just left and moved to Black neighborhoods or moved out of Arlington completely. But these laws allowed them to build segregation walls around neighborhoods. And Halls Hill was basically surrounded on 3 sides, except for where there was a highway or there was no other neighborhoods on the other side. So basically, this allowed all of these developers, just like when you go and buy a new house now and you get a model house and they ask you, do you want granite or do you want marble? Do you want, a 2-car garage? Do you want a 1-car? So when these people bought these houses from developers, they could pick whether they wanted brick walls, cinder block, or a security fence, and it had to be between 5 and 7 feet. And it was basically, it kept the Black neighborhoods the Black neighbors whose backyards touched the white neighbors from having any interaction. But it became a problem in 1966 when they segregated John M. Langston School, because that wall that was built at the bottom of, basically off of 17th Street, behind those houses, would force the children to walk 18 blocks to reach their new school at Woodlawn. Because when they closed Langston School, the school board really didn't have, they were afraid of what would happen with the white community. There were 6 different options about what to do, and they chose the option that split the community. So what they did was basically closed our neighborhood school and had the children go to 5 different schools. Some were bused. I was one of the group that was bused. The people who went to Woodlawn were able to walk, but what that did was it really kind of tore our neighborhood apart, because having a neighborhood school, it didn't matter what church you went to, where your people worked, it didn't matter. Everybody's kid went to the same school. So they basically robbed our neighborhood of that and really kind of, really changed the flavor of the neighborhood with our school being closed. Although it was really interesting because they were saying, they were afraid about what the white people would say. What they probably should have done was move the white neighbors who were closest to the school to Langston and move those kids who were closest to Woodlawn. But they didn't want to have any school that had more than 35% Black children in the North Arlington neighborhood. So our neighborhood was basically, we had to suffer for it. And after 2 months, basically the whole summer of complaining to the county board, they agreed to modify the county master plan, and they basically cut a hole in the wall. And then after a couple of years, they purchased the house that was in that intersection. And so now Culpeper Street goes all the way through. So and next time you're up in the Halls Hill neighborhood, you'll notice that at 17th and Culpeper, on the Halls Hill side, the street is called Culpeper, but on the Woodlawn side, the street is called Abington. And that's because that street wasn't allowed to go through when it was originally built. So just to go through the conclusion, I like to point out eminent domain is the reason that Queen City and East Arlington are not here anymore. And I'm happy that the county is finally, has a memorial and is coming to, grips with the fact that all of these residents were displaced. And I do want to, again, give props to our elders, the people who were in the Johnson's Hill and Halls Hill neighborhood civic associations were 2 of the county's first 3 communities selected to have their neighborhood conservation plans approved in 1965. And all of this is because of federal development block grant funds that was given to places all over the United States in order to help improve communities. That's when our neighborhoods got curb and gutter. I mean, we used to have tar streets with no sidewalks. And when it rained really, really hard, it was really bad for our neighborhood. So these helped to get us the resources that we needed to keep our community up. But the Green Valley neighborhood was in the next group of communities. So if anybody wonders why these 3 neighborhoods are still recognized as historically African American, it is because of the work that was done by these 3 civic associations during the time when neighborhood conservation plans were originally approved. And it really has cemented these communities in Arlington County's history. So in the Halls Hill neighborhood, Mr. Bertie Alston, Mr. Ham, Miss Dorothy Ham's husband, Mrs. Let's see, my aunt, Patience Spriggs, those 3 people were the 3 chairs of the Halls Hill plan. So we owe a lot to them for helping to what I call put the flag on the moon in Arlington as far as Black neighborhoods. And that's it. Thanks very much. Let me stop sharing.
Thank you very much, Wilma, for your presentation about a lot of the historically Black neighborhoods in Arlington. Again, I learned a lot from that. I thought I knew a lot, and then I realized there's a lot more that I don't know. So at this point, happy to open it up for question and answer for both Portia and Wilma. And probably the easiest way is just to add any questions you have in the chat, and I can read them off for them to answer. But Before I see any questions in there, I have a question for you both. So what do you think the legacy of our historically Black neighborhoods, what does that mean for the future of Arlington? When you think about decision making in the county and our community, um, how do you want their legacy and their continued existence as neighborhoods and as communities? Like, what role do you want that to play in the future of Arlington moving forward?
You can go first, Portia.
I'm not sure I have the exact answer to all of that, but I will say that we're here as a community, and I don't think we're going away, but we are a lot more diverse. So it's a lot more people engaging and getting involved that don't necessarily share the history of our communities. But those of us that are here and remember our past and understand how we got to where we are, we're going to keep moving forward and developing and growing. And it's just going to bring more diversity and hopefully for the positive of things getting done. Today, we still have challenges in the response to our neighborhood because some people think it's a high crime area. I think we're always going to fight issues like that, but there's crime in Crystal City, crime in Clarendon, not just our neighborhoods. So certainly, I would hope that, we remember our history and understand our past. And it has been a driving factor sometimes in these new developments as they come along, particularly with the housing covenants and things like that, that a lot of people didn't quite understand. But it's also caused a lot of contention in our neighborhood where new neighbors and old neighbors don't all get along. So we're working on that, and I think that'll help us in the future to be a neighborhood where everybody's welcome and it's open to all.
Thank you, Portia. Wilma?
I think that the work that our Citizens Association, as well as the Halls Hill Highview Park Historic Preservation Committee are doing is important in order to be able for the people who are just coming here and for people who come through our neighborhood to understand the importance. One of the reasons that Arlington is as open and progressive and everything as it is because of the people from these Black neighborhoods. I remember when the boat people came to Arlington, and Arlington has become open and has become open to other, in my opinion, other communities and things because of I think two things. One is the influx of people who came here to work for the federal government who were literally, they couldn't believe racism in Virginia was as bad as it was when they came. And they were willing to work with the Black people who were being, discriminated against. And it helped to bring in, Arlington is a 100, I'm not 100%. Arlington is a traditionally and a blue area. It's an area from a political perspective. It's an area where people are open to diversity and understand how opening up to other people and people who have different experiences can help make the place stronger. So I think that what we're trying to do is to make sure that it doesn't go away with us. I have a son who's going to be a 5th generation person who lives in Halls Hill. I don't know whether he's going to stay in Halls Hill. I mean, my youngest son, who's now in Texas in a historically Black neighborhood, said, if he comes back to DC, he's not sure that this is a place where he's going to want to raise his kids. And I think that part of that is because of the great gentrification that we've experienced. So my goal, and I think goal of the other people who are still working and active, is to make sure that we do our job like the generations before us to ensure that this history doesn't go away, but also so that people understand why Arlington is the way that it is.
Thank you. And you actually, I think, answered a question that someone had posed about what inspired you to do the research and come up with the history of your respective neighborhoods. I think you answered that question already.
No, I didn't. The reason that I did it is because my kids didn't know it. It had nothing to do with anybody else. I wrote my Halls Hill family and my book, Little Michael, the children's book, specifically for my family. Now, I did not realize that, honestly, I did not realize that 3 or 4 months after the book came out, that it was going to be the 60th anniversary of desegregation. So that kind of exploded it because they asked me to do a table, and then that kind of got more people. But I wrote the book for my sons and my nieces and nephews because there were things that I found out that I didn't know. Like, I did not know that my mother and some of the other mothers of the students who were plaintiffs in the desegregation case were forced to go down to Richmond with 2 days' notice to testify about why they were breaking the law, allowing the NAACP to give them free legal services for desegregation and threatening them. I thought that those were things that I wanted my family to know, because it's not just the leaders, it's not just the Dorothy Hams, it's not just the people who are out there, it's also the worker bees. You know, right now, unfortunately, there are worker bees in the federal government who are going to be a part of that resistance. Those kinds of people matter, and I wanted to make that known.
Thank you. Portia, anything you want to add about that, why you got into this work?
Well, part of it I mentioned as I was presenting, becoming an activist when, my daughter's school situation happened. And then it came to the housing situation where Jenny Davis, who was very active, helped us to be able to afford to buy a home because of all the work she did with affordable housing. And then again, my family traditionally is still in the neighborhood or around, and our kids don't know each other, and a lot of them don't know the histories. I too discovered one day that my aunt was one of the plaintiffs on a court case that went to court for desegregating our schools. So I got more into the history and, finding out a little bit each time. And that just led me to more exploring of our history and trying to preserve it for others to know.
Thank you, Portia. And Jeannie Davis Park, I hope the county has fixed the lighting of the sign, because I know like a couple of the letters were out of, or the lights were turned off. I'm not sure if
And
that's
that's
been fixed yet.
two different people. Jenny Davis was one of our Civic Association presidents for 31 years. Jenny Dean is the park.
Oh, right.
And she
Okay,
was
yeah.
the educator from Manassas. But I haven't checked, but I will find out because I think they've got a couple of list of things that they're working on. There's a phase 2 for Jenny Dean now under development.
Sounds good. So next question that I have is, what do you believe are the top 3 challenges currently facing Black residents and families in Arlington? And this goes to both of you.
The price of housing, without question, and the fact that the county can't come up with some solutions to help from a grant or a 0% loan or something perspective so that people can try to keep grandma's house. I think that from a perspective of Black people who have been here, I think that's a major concern. But then you also have the Black people who have come to live in Arlington because it's a good place to live. I think one of my personal issues is I have a major issue with the fact that the schools don't offer the same testing and programs and things in all parts of Arlington. I don't understand why people in Jamestown can get stuff that people in Drew can't have. I think I mean, and I know Dr. Duran is tired of me talking about it, but it's a problem that needs to be addressed, and it's not fair. And I hate to say this, but also it's some issues at Williamsburg. That's one of the reasons I moved out of Arlington while my sons were in middle school. It's something going on over there. I understand that it's better since they have a new principal, but there are discrepancies among schools and the services offered, the tests offered. There needs to be something done about that so that it's equal. And my last thing is also with the schools and the fact that they have this whole thing about reading, but they're starting with the young kids and they're letting the kids who can't read at grade level, who are in high school, kind of go through the system. That stinks. Those are my top 3. But those are me personally, not speaking as a Citizens Association president or anything.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Wilma. Portia?
I will say housing certainly is on my list because I still look at the need for affordable housing. Most recently, not just for our first responders and teachers, but we got a lot of caregivers now taking care of seniors that can't afford housing. So that, along with the school system, there are a number of challenges. And even though our school is a lot more diverse today than it ever was, there are challenges with the policies in the school system and how our kids are being educated or not educated. I look at even the unemployment and the economic development of the community where our kids are not learning the trades that they used to offer in the schools because the Career Center doesn't do HVAC and all of those programs that a lot of kids benefited from. But I'm real concerned that even with summer school policies now that say not all kids go to summer school or they're not required to go to summer school, they give them a choice. And a lot of our kids need to be in summer school or learning because they're not at grade levels where they should be. And when we talk about things like the high crime rate or what's going on with our young people today, guns, video games, it's not helping them to succeed and to even think about being prepared for college because we're not doing what we should do for college prep.
Thank you, Portia. Next question is, how is the sense of community and sort of the culture within both Halls Hill and Green Valley changed over time? Do people in these communities still treat one another as family or close friends, or how has that shifted as the neighborhoods have become more diverse? Can you talk a little bit about what you've seen in your own lifetimes?
Well, some neighbors know other neighbors, and others just say hi and bye and coming and going. It's not the communities that we built that took care of each other, where, snow happens. Yes, it's everybody's got to shovel the sidewalks, but there's not a lot of caring like it was when you knew, so and so was a widow at home by herself. She needed help. Somebody jumped in and did the work. Or like the guys I've mentioned in the construction trades, the way a lot of them acquire their homes is they sit down in the evening after working 8 hours and then go help each other build their houses. We don't have that kind of closeness of knowing what our neighbors are doing, who they are, and what their needs are. And I think that's something we've got to build back up because our community was built on that, and that's how we thrive.
Thank you, Portia. Wilma?
I'm sorry, my phone is blowing up. My Roberta Flack, of course, everybody knows who died, was my ex-husband's piano teacher, and he just finished doing a TV interview, and my phone is blowing up. So I'm sorry. Can you repeat the question?
Yes, no worries. So how has the sense of community and sort of culture shifted over time in Halls Hill?
It shifted because we have some new people who, honestly, when I first started being civically active, it just amazed me that people didn't want to join the Citizens Association. But some people don't want to be bothered. They only want to know about stuff that's going to affect their property values or, so yeah, it has definitely changed. We had some people who I was very excited about working with us, and we were trying to work with what was going on with the hospital. And the person said, "Well, hold up, I don't know if I want to disagree with the hospital because if it improves my property value, I might want them to do it." So it's a different thought process. From my perspective, it kind of used to be even with the people who didn't want to be involved on a regular basis. When something happened, the community coalesced over and supported. We don't have that now. It's there, but it's not like it was. But on the other side, we do have a number of committed people who live here who want to make sure that things are done right. I mean, of course, living off of Langston Boulevard and having the hospital in our backyard, we are constantly overcome by things. And our neighborhood has houses that, we have houses that look from super duper modern to little frame things to apartments to townhouses. So It is not what it used to be, but it's not as bad as it could be. We, of course, are, again, greatly gentrified, but we do have a good number of people who are determined to stay here and are determined to do the work to make sure that Halls Hill, Highview Park, and the values and the things that are important to the residents. We advocate for the welfare of the community, but we don't have the level of community support that we would like to. We'd love to have 100, 200 more members, but we do have a good group of folks, and we do now have a number of historic preservation things going on that have helped to spread the word. So we do have people who are supportive, but we don't have that same sense of tight-knit community that we used to have. But again, I think that when things are important, we do come together and make the right decisions, but it is a lot tougher getting people involved.
Okay, thank you. So I think our final question is really more of an opportunity for you both to share sort of one key takeaway that you'd like the people who have joined us tonight to take away from the presentations that we heard from you. We can start with Wilma and then go to Portia.
I just say, if you want more information, go to hallshill.com. I've got loads of, podcasts and interviews and blog posts. And, if you're sitting in traffic if you have to go back to work, you can go to hallshill.com and listen to them. I actually read a lot of the blog posts, so you have audio. It has a bunch of info. And again, my Halls Hill family is my Halls Hill family more than a neighborhood is available on Amazon and Barnes and Noble and a bunch of places. It's actually, I think they have 7 or 8 copies at the library. There's a copy at the Center for Local History. So everything that I've talked about is talked about in that book. And if you have a kid and you want to alert them about Arlington Black history, my children's book is called Little Michael Visits Fire Station 8.
Thank you. Portia?
I would say that, as a community, we're still developing. We're right now still threatened by what we're going to do with the properties around our town square, but we are starting to focus on those again. Our civic association still has lots of people active and involved and engaged. We could always use more. One of the things that we've been doing is trying to build on our relationships, particularly to bring back some of what we used to have, where information got around, like even who died, who was born, who got married. We're improving our communication channels, which is necessary today because a lot of people just don't share or come outside their front door to learn what's going on in the neighborhood. So that said, we built the town square to build relationships. And one of the things that that C.A.R.E is kicking off is a farmer's market. And the farmer's market is going to be hosted on Friday nights with fish fry dinners and food trucks for the community to come out and get back together with playing cards and talking and finding out who's who and who can help who. Because we have a lot of seniors in the neighborhood and we're vying for more senior housing to be developed. But again, we got to understand what our needs are behind those closed doors that people just don't open up enough and trust.
Thank you, Portia. And just in time for
Oh,
Lent.
one more thing. I
Yeah.
forgot to mention our historic preservation project, which we have added to our website, a lot of historical documents. If anybody remembers the Green Valley Newses that John Robinson started publishing in 1966, we digitized a large collection of them. And all of that information is available online from the Green Valley Civic Association website.
Thank you. Yeah, I was just going to say that the Friday night fish fry was a staple of my growing up in Western New York, and I'm excited that that's going to be right down the street. So thank you both for sharing your extensive knowledge of Black history and historically Black neighborhoods in Arlington with us tonight. As I said before, I know I learned a lot, and I'm sure everyone else did. But thank you also for all the work that you do as activists and advocates. for your communities and for Arlington overall. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Pastor Davis.
What a marvelous segment tonight. It has been quite enlightening for us as we have talked about our local Black history. And I'm so very grateful to Kellen for facilitating and to Wilma and Portia for leading in this time. We have two orders of business that we need to take care of before we close tonight. And that is our financial report from our assistant treasurer, Miss Adriana Spain. And then we are going to give an update for information that our branch is following in just a second. Thank you, Ms. Spain.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, can you give me access to share my screen?
Sure. Or I can just share if you'd like.
I think it's easier if I share.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to share it, Adriana, because
Okay. Can everybody see the report? Is it showing now?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. All right. Let me move this screen. So this is the January 2025 financial report for the Arlington branch. For our revenue during the month, we had a total of $2,300.48. For expenses, we had a total of $650.78. That left us with our balance in our operations account of $11,952.26. There was no activity in our reserves or scholarships account this month. And that is the financial report.
Thank you very much for sharing. That has also been shared and approved by the executive committee just as late as last week. We also want to have an update this evening. Amy Stitzel is going to share with us about HB 2724. Amy, are you there?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. It was great to hear from Wilma and Portia. Thank you. That was a wonderful presentation from both of you. So HB 2724 passed. That was a bill that originally was proposed allowing the license plate readers that law enforcement use to read license plates and collect data on the driving patterns of vehicles. Would have allowed for it to be expanded, and also we were concerned about surveillance, particularly with what's going on with the government right now, that people might want to get access to that data to surveil immigrants, to surveil people coming to Virginia for abortions, for lots of various reasons. So we were concerned. The state conference was also concerned. The NAACP branch Arlington branch signed on to a letter asking that it not be passed basically without guardrails with a number of other advocacy groups. And it ended up being passed with an amendment that did provide some guardrails, which we are happy about, and also requiring a reenactment clause where it won't actually go into effect and allow these like expansions. And there's also like publication requirements unless the legislature again next year passes it. So just for everyone's information, we do have license plates readers in Arlington. They're allowed and legal, and we just want more restrictions on them, not just for Arlington, but for all the Virginia governments. Not every county or city has them right now. Do you have any questions? Let me know.
Are there any questions this evening? All right. Thank you for that update this evening. I moved quickly from our financial report and did not get the motion for it to be accepted. Is there someone that would like to make that motion tonight?
I
I'll
make a
motion.
motion.
Oh, no,
I
you go ahead.
second. Go ahead. I second. Go ahead.
Okay, I'll make the motion.
I second.
Been properly moved in second. We ready for the question? All those who are in favor, be it known by either saying aye or raising your hand at the bottom of the screen.
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
All those who are opposed have the same right. The ayes have it. Thank you for that. Again, we want to thank those who are present tonight. As we come to the close of tonight's meeting, I want to express my deepest gratitude to each of you for being present and engaged in this important conversation. A special thank you to Kelly Macbeth for serving as our facilitator this evening, and to Portia Clark and Wilma Jones for their insightful presentations and leadership in guiding our discussion on local Black history. Your knowledge and passion help keep our history alive and relevant for generations to come. Next month, we will continue our commitments to education and empowerment by highlighting women who have made an incredible impact in Virginia in honor of Women's History Month. Their contributions have shaped our communities and inspired progress in ways that deserve recognition and celebration. To our NAACP members, your dedication makes our community strong and united. We are also committed to supporting federal workers, contractors, and those who are currently facing difficult times or instability. We want you to know this is a priority, and we will continue working towards meaningful solutions and advocacy efforts to uplift those who are in need. We also extend our appreciation to our political leaders, clergy, and all of our friends who joined us online tonight. Your presence affirms our shared commitment to justice, equity, and the well-being of Arlington. As NAACP founder Mary White Ovington once said, freedom is not simply to be free of chains, but to live in a way that respects and enhances the freedom of others. May we continue to walk in that spirit of unity and progress. Let us pray. Gracious and eternal God, we thank you for this gathering, for the wisdom shared, and for the commitment of each person in the room. We ask for your guidance as we continue the work of justice, equity, and empowerment in our community. Strengthen our hands for the work ahead and bless those who are facing hardship. Grant them peace, provision, and protection. May we always remember our history, honor those who came before us, and forge a future that reflects your love and justice. Keep us united in purpose, steadfast in faith, and committed to the fight for equality. In your name we pray. Let everyone say amen. Thank you for being here tonight. I hope you have a marvelous evening.
Bye. Have a good night.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Sun and the dance. We gotta stand up and make it loud. Just like our gods on the road and let my people go, go. We are a new generation from the ones who have come before. He's calling us into freedom, let my people go, go. In the water, in the water.